Welcome back. This is Wisconsin Shoe Guy, and today we're going to take a look at shining shoes and using products to do that that are not necessarily the name brands on the market today. So if you look at the market today, most of the places are going to suggest using Saphir as the main product, and Saphir has a whole range of products from a high shine gloss to different shoe creams, lots of different things. But what we're going to do is we're going to do today, with the exception of a couple things. First, we're not going to use this. This is Reno Matte, and this is a remover of old polish. Now, I do use this, obviously, but I use it sparingly. And this is something that you use once a year, maybe once every 2 years, every 3 years, to remove caked on polish. But when you have situations like this, where the shoe is obviously got polish falling off of it, how do you get it to look like this? Now, if you look at this carefully and you see, hey, Mr. Shoe Guy, there is some depth of change in this polish. I don't like that. I want it to be completely uniform across the toe. Well, then, yeah, maybe you do need to use this Reno Matte polish. But most of the time, you don't need to. You can simply use, a conditioner. On this shoe, I used Pure Polish. And on this shoe, I used Colonel 1909. And you can see, the shoe itself came out pretty good. This, by the way, is an Edward Green Dover. This is a Loke Trinity. Now, I used the Shoe Snob for the wax and the cream. Right? Now, this is very similar to Saphir, but it's not the Saphir brand. And on this, I stuck with the Pure Polish brand and used their cream polish kind of as the cream and their paste polish on top. Now, what I did not use is a high shine wax. And there are ones in each line, but I decided not to do that. Now, the other thing that I did on these shoes, which is a little different from the way I normally do it, is normally I will layer many, many colors of wax on the toes and heels. And on these, I just did one. And, I did not spend an hour, waxing these either. This is just, rejuvenating where it was. But if you look at the other shoe in the series, both of these pairs got pretty beat up in a wear. I was on a trade show floor and going from meeting to meeting to meeting at hotels where, I'm just pretty sloppy with my feet. So I had that issue. So what we're going to do today is we are going to do like we've done before and clean the shoes. And then I'm going to show how to restore these with just using the conditioners, the cream and the wax. And then afterwards, based on this, you can decide whether this is good enough or how that works. So we're going to start with the Trinity, and we're going to use the Pure Polish. Now, this is a great cleaner conditioner. I really like it. I like the way it works. I like the way it feels. And I'm using a handkerchief as my shine cloth because I don't use them anymore. So I have a bunch. So again, I put a little bit on my finger. That's actually probably 4 times as much as I need. So more like that. And then I simply put this on the toe. And then I really rub it in. Because what I want to do is I want to get the wax that's on the toe to lift up and move around, because that's what was damaged. Now, I do want to get the cleaner and conditioner all the way around the shoe. I want to get on the facing, behind the laces. If you're really doing a good job, you take the laces out, but I don't always do that. I try to keep things the way I normally do it on my channel. Now, if you read the comments on a couple of my shoe care videos, people have noted that I'm pretty rough with my shoes. They wonder why I beat them with a brush, things like that. Well, some of that is just because I'm a klutz, and you know, I drop the, you know, I hit the handle to the shoe or something like that, which happens. Never damaged any of my shoes. And some of it is because I really feel like shoes are made to be worn, and you're not supposed to be gentle. And, you know, I learned how to shine shoes from my dad, not on all the videos. And so I'm just, I guess, as rough with the shoes as my dad was, or at least as my 8-year-old eyes saw my dad being when I first saw him do it. So, you know, I've been wearing dress shoes and shining dress shoes for, you know, 25 years. I've never damaged a pair, but I certainly acknowledge that it is possible. So I've gotten the conditioner and the cleaner all the way around the shoe. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus again on these hot spots on the toe where, you know, all that damage was, and just work on bringing it around. Now I'm putting a little bit of pressure on here, but I'm only putting pressure on until my fingers feel a little warm. I certainly don't want to damage the shoe. The trees are in, so that they are protected. And that's it. And then I'm just going to let it dry. Now you can still see the line here. So that line I'm going to have to still work on with the cream polish. But that is how it is set now. Now I can take the excess cleaner conditioner off with a brush, or I can just let it soak in, and I'm going to let it soak in. Now this one is, you know, the split toe. This has some really good gouges, you know, here, 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 and here. And these are gouges in the wax, right? And that's why we wax our shoes, is to protect them from ourselves. So, you know, at the from ourselves, from the elements, and from other people stepping on our toes, which of course happens accidentally more often than I'd care to admit. But mostly this is my own heels, and my own heels on my shoes can do a lot of damage, especially if I'm doing a lot of sit, stand, and walking around. I was at the Venetian Hotel in Las Vegas, and I probably went from, you know, almost 10 restaurants a day to another, and you know, was involved in some pretty intense meetings. So want to make sure that we get this in and rejuvenated. Now some of this, you know, obviously the conditioner is there to condition the leather, right? Now Colonel, unlike pure polish, doesn't really remove wax. So any of the removing of the old wax, I'm really doing with my hand. And if I used a cloth, I could pull some of it off. But I really want to show how it works if I don't use a cloth, you know, for the purpose of today's video. So again, I'm just, this is funny because it is, the consistency of this is pretty bizarre. It's got like a little jello-like consistency. And I just get it on my hand, and then I rub it into the shoe until it's very, very thin. And it no longer feels wet. And it does feel wet out of the gate. So, and that's kind of how I go about it. And again, toward the end, I'm gonna focus on these areas. Get them nice and wet. And then I'm just gonna focus in on them. And like before, you can still see them. You can see them more than you could with the pure polish. So that's, you know, a point for pure polish if you're comparing in order to choose between which one to handle a situation like this. So now you gotta wipe it off, right? You gotta now I can use a brush, but I like to use like a washcloth, and obviously this is a really dirty washcloth with a lot of polish on it. But I use this, and I just use this to kind of clean off as much of the old wax as I can. And you can see I'm actually drawing some off as I do this. Not all of it, but I am drawing some off. You know, and I try to get into the welt, on top of the welt, obviously. You don't want to get under the welt, that would be bad. Again, I'm just getting excess off so that it will take the polish after, right? And then after I'm done with that, then I'll run it over with a brush. Make sure you get into the brogue holes, again along the welt. And along the edges. And here you go. Now, as you see, it's not 100% clean. You can still see the wax build up on it, and that's okay. Because what we're going to do now is we're going to go at it with the cream polish. Now, I'm using, these are mahogany shoes, and I'm using dark brown polish. A lot of people try to color match. They spend a lot of time, and they spend a lot of money buying all the different colors under the sun. And I have a lot of colors, don't get me wrong. But I found that dark brown works on a lot of shoes because it's relatively transparent. Now, pure polish is relatively transparent. Saphir, and even the other Saphir-like, and many of them are made by Avell, so it's probably very, very similar to Saphir. But they, you know, they do darken more. They have more pigment than pure polish. But you know, if you think about why do you want pigment in a cream polish? You want pigment to fill in scratches and scuffs. That's really what you want, is that level of pigment. You don't really want more. And so you don't want it to fill in creases and get all gunky. That's bad. So you just want enough to do that job of filling in the scuffs, so that you don't have or a small scratch, so that you've got you know, less visibility. Now these scratches are all in the wax, which is no big deal because you put more wax and the wax goes right into the wax scratches and you buff it out. That's kind of what we do. So now I've got a cream polish layer on this. You can kind of see how that looks. Pretty basic stuff. Not, you know, I'm not using brushes. I'm not, you know, really applying a lot of product. Just, this is pure polish. And this is the cream polish in dark brown. Now, let's move to this one. So for this, I want to use this shoe stomp polish, and these shoes are a light brown or a light cognac, and I'm just going to use like a British tan, right? Which is not an exact match, but it's lighter, and as I apply it, it soaks in a little bit. This is Utah calf, so it is a pretty oily leather to begin with. And that's very different to polish. Now you don't want to get this like a high shine polish all the way around or anything like that, because Utah calf is a casual calf, right? But I did wear this with suits. It's a beautiful shoe and I like it and I like the style. But if I were, you know, working something more formal than, you know, a trade show or a regular business meeting, if I was doing like a board meeting or something like that, I would not wear derbies or split toes with a suit. So now I'm going to use this on here. The reason that I'm using this is because this has this grain pattern in there, and I really want to get even the wet cream polish into the grooves, but I don't want to leave them in the grooves because they're a little bit of a different color, and I think it looks kind of bad if you do that. So now some people will put really, really dark polish in there to try to darken the grooves. There's all kinds of things and games you can play with this. But, you know, this is a really close match. I'm going to get into the welt here on top of the welt because I got a little bit of excess there, which is in there, which I'm going to wind up brushing off now. The great thing about Saphir is that it dries very quickly. Now you can leave it to dry or you can just keep working. And as you can tell, I'm kind of a keep working kind of guy. Now the pure polish is not fully dry. Normally I like to let this dry like an hour, but it doesn't work on a video if I wait an hour, if I'm gonna have an unedited video. So I will go and I will keep going here, and then if I feel necessary, I will come back after an hour and rebuff them to see, which I did on these others. So as I rub it in, just get it cleaned up. And that reminds me to close this, as I don't need it anymore. All right, so now what you can see, my wax is still all messed up, but the shoe itself is now nicely protected and has a good coat of cream polish that will provide nice protection for it, you know, over the next 7 to 10 wears, which is what I'm going for. Now, these shoes hadn't had a really good polish since pre-COVID, and that's mostly because of my rotation and the fact that, you know, during COVID, I haven't really been wearing my shoes like I normally do. These last few days I did, which, you know, led to this treatment. So, okay, so here we are. Now that this is a little drier, I'll do a brush around it again, just to make sure that the surface is ready for some wax. All right. So now if you look at the toe here, it's much, much better. It's not perfect, but it's much better. This toe is still really, really shoddy. So we're gonna go and we're gonna move to the paste. Now the paste polish, and here, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna switch these and put the finished ones up here, okay? So the paste polish is just like wax, right? So it's thicker, it is, you know, it probably has a little bit more color than your other wax polishes, but if you push it on with a little bit of force, it gets into the cracks and can really apply a nice thin layer across the shoe. Now, thin is relative to the viscosity of the solvent that you're putting on the shoe, okay? Now, I know people say solvents are a bad thing, and I think that they're talking about silicone-based solvents. You know, the solvent just means anything that's in liquid. So I may use that more from a chemical standpoint than the way these shoe people use it. So, all right, so I got a little bit of wax there on the front. Now I'm gonna do a very light coat around the shoe just to protect it. You want it to have a little bit of extra waterproofing during, you know, winter. Winter's coming up. I live in Wisconsin. It's a miracle we don't have snow already. So just do that. You know, I have a friend of mine on Cape Cod, and hopefully, you know, they're getting power back. As I understand it, they lost power yesterday morning in a big storm, which was almost as bad as a hurricane. So almost the whole south part of the island, or Cape, it's not really an island, lost power. So crazy stuff, crazy times. So that had some on there, putting a little bit more on the toe, because the toe is my problem area from a wax perspective. Okay. We're gonna let that dry. But this is gonna be back, so we'll put this over here. So now we're gonna talk about this other kind of wax. This is your traditional shoe wax. And you can see that this is not the traditional way you find it. So what happens every now and then is it gets cracked and messed up, and I like to put it all together And so I just put my finger in it and I push it around. It breaks it up, it makes it a little bit softer, which when I'm applying very thin coats is good. When I'm trying to shine, it's kind of bad because it's too liquidy. But for now, what we're trying to do is just get that thin protective layer, okay, across the shoe. So we're gonna go ahead and put that on. And again, this has this texture in the Utah calf, so we need to really, you know, push it in. And then on the heels and toes, I do have a shine layer, and you need to make sure that you have a pretty good thick layer of this wax in there. And of course I had a buildup before, so I'm just replenishing it, evening it out. You see how that just brings up? And now I'm gonna work on the toe. And again, I had some gouges down here, so I need to make sure that those are repaired first. And as they dry, I'll build up another layer on top of them. You see how I do this? I get a good thick layer, and then I just build it over it. And then that is step one. So not terribly complicated, not hard. You can see I got into all those little grooves, and you know, I'm just giving myself a baseline to really get started. So like we did with the last one, and I'm not going to close that all the way because we're going to be opening that up again. And I just take my towel and I'm going to go over this. And I still have quite a lot in my toe cap that's going to need some coats. And the rest of the shoe, again, it hasn't had a lot of time to dry. The rest of the shoe is looking pretty darn good. Now, if I were in a hurry, you know, I could probably get away with that. But I want to do better, just to prove that I can. So that's my cream polish. Here's my paste polish. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our hanky. We're just going to do the same thing we do with any other shine cloth. Okay? And we're just going to do this. Not a lot. Put it on there. Small concentric circles. And we're going to take our water and we're going to work the water and wax combo in to build up the shine. Doesn't need to be a lot. You know, you want this to be layered. And those layers are going to rebuild the solid nature that you see on the other shoe. This takes time. This isn't something you can really cheat on. I wish it was. You just have to push it in. And you have to use a fair amount of pressure to get this really built up. As you continue to push the wax into the shoe, you really want to get it into the pores of the leather, because that's how you build the shine. And once you build the shine and you make it relatively uniform across the different points of the shoe, that's when the shoe starts to look like it's got that warmth radiating from it, which is really what I'm going for. You know, you can spend a lot of time with it and you can get clarity, but I generally don't like to work that hard on my shines. Not that I can't, but it's just not something I spend a lot of time on, because it can take an hour a shoe to do that, and that is a lot of time for me. All right, now, my drops of water. Now that I have a relatively thicker wax layer, you know, the areas that were bad before are less so. Now, it's not perfect though. I'm still getting some scratchiness, you know, some things like that, which is a very different phenomenon than I get with some of the other polishes. Now, this is pure polish circa 2019, right when they started. And, you know, I know that, you know, they were kind enough to send me a new high shine wax, and I know that the stuff that I buy for Shell has improved in quality dramatically. So I think that some of this is even better to work with if you buy it today. Now listen, I want to point out, I don't have sponsors on the channel. You know, he's not sending me free polish, except for, you know, he sent me a high shine wax as kind of a holiday present, because I post a lot of pictures for him, and, you know, and we talk, right? But I don't think that that's, you know, I'm not basing my opinion on that, and I just want to be clear. And let's see how it builds. And we're just building up the shine as we go. Now, as I said before, this stage can take a lot of time, you know, which is part of the reason why I did one of the shoes in each pair ahead of time, so that you're not watching me do it twice. I don't think that there's, I think that watching a video like this, you know, well, I mean, we've said ASMR and, you know, everything else to try to make it easier, and I know some guys just do it to music, but if I'm not recording the music myself, I don't want to put it on my channel anymore. You'll hear some of my earlier videos have it, and you'll see that some actually had to have it taken off, which is kind of awkward. So you get to hear my voice. You can always mute me. I won't take it personal, I promise. All right, so now I'm gonna take my rag and move it around the shoe while the cap sets. Now, of course, the heel counters, I actually do like to have a good shine on, mostly because I kick my heels together, and I know that, and it looks ugly, so I try to protect it so I don't do any damage to the shoe. So here you go, pure polish, cleaner, conditioner, cream, and wax. And we've got a shoe that looked damaged, you know, in just a few minutes, looking not quite brand new, not quite perfect, but a whole lot better. And, you know, the more time you spend, the better it'll be. You know, I can see the clarity starting to form in the shoe if I keep going. You know, and I just continue to smooth out the edges, put more pressure on it where you see things not quite uniform, and then a light touch on top. And if you feel like it's getting kind of ratty, you simply move to a clean spot on your shine cloth, and you go again, and it's amazing. It just cleans it all right up. And you can see a little bit comes off, and that's part of the fun as well. So that is pure polish. We won't spend a lot more time on it. I don't think that 15 more minutes is going to show you anything, so I'll just do that off camera. So now we have the shoe snob, and I'm just going to go over this with my brush and lift the shine up really nice. You know, this is a relatively oily leather, Utah calf, and you know, Edward Greens are good shoes. They use the best leather, you know, so it's just really solid. I actually ordered a pair of Edward Green shoe trees to go in these because I bought them on the Bay and didn't get them. Well, I actually bought a pair of Dovers recently in a hatch grain, saddle hatch grain, actually, beautiful pair, and that the factory's going to make for me. And because of that, I was able to order a pair of shoe trees to go into these. So pretty cool stuff. I ordered a belt, and I forgot to ask if the belt was just going to be in the same leather or actually from Edward Green. So I'm interested in seeing how that is. It's not an inexpensive belt. I think list price on those things was $260, which is darn close to near the most I've ever spent on a belt, aside from, you know, when I go to a bespoke maker. So you can see how well that did, right? It's almost done, right? You don't really need a lot more. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a bottom edge here, and I'm going to, without adding water, seeing how much I can get the shine to lift. Not a ton, but at the same time, you know what I don't see? I don't see those gouges. I don't see those gouges anywhere. You know, and that's the beauty of the Saphir waxes. It just does a really, really good job. Now, you know, I could spend a little time with this and see if I could get really, really high shine on it, but I don't think I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to just take this and call it a day. Just for the sake of argument, I touch it like that. So you don't want to use a lot of wax at this stage. It's really very, very little. You put it on, and then you have to shine it until it lifts so that it's as shiny as it was before. And that takes some time. You know, a lot of people make the mistake of just adding water too soon. They add too much water. If I had the number of times I had a shine that didn't work out the way I wanted to, and I showed it to a cobbler friend, and the cobbler friend was like, how much water did you use there? You know, that I learned. You know, I can't say that I'm perfect because I still do everything wrong, but I still, you know, I feel like I have, you know, shoes that look better than the average guy. And that's kind of my goal. All right, so that and one of the things I really love about the Dover is the proportions. The way that they have these heel counters going forward of the heel block on every pair is just the right proportion for me. And I watch all of these other brands imitate this shoe. And that's the one thing everybody gets wrong. You know, and you know, if you look at the rounded edges, the stitch density, the distance between the stitches here, all those things, I get, you know, you can't do it exactly the same. But this, having that, you know, like the heel width further forward, that's a proportion that I think is classy. And, you know, I'm not a designer, I don't know beans about it, but to me, I like it, and it doesn't seem like the kind of thing that ought to be proprietary. You know, I can see a lot of things being proprietary, but not that. All right, so now, I mean, look how nicely that shines up. And we haven't used any water yet. See, look at that. Just beautiful, beautiful shoes with a great shine. in my mind, really just help any outfit look better. So this and that is my video today, and it shows the shoe snob polish versus pure polish. They both work pretty darn effectively, and it's all about what is, you know, important to you and what you like to use. I think pure polish is easier, especially if you're using the high shine paste, to get a really, really high shine on the cap. I find that they both last about the same, you know, and I like having the variety of using both. But interested in your feelings. What do you think? What do you like best? Why do you like it? And let me know your stories about shining shoes. Thanks for watching.